You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur.
Come on, y'all!
Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, and this is another episode of The Next Level, in which I have a guest co-host, and together we talk about the interview of the week and help bring out some of the tactics and advice and strategies that come from it in order to help you bring your own business to the next level. And before I introduce today's guest co-host, I want to mention that last week's interviews was with Marianne Bennett, founder and CEO of Element Music out of New York City. And I had on The Next Level, I had Sean Lowe of The Business of Being Creative as my guest co-host. And so now I want to introduce today's guest co-host. It is Valerie Gernhauser. Valerie, hello. Welcome back.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for having me as always.
Yeah, this has been a few times. You were featured on episode number 19, which I recommend people definitely go back and listen to. And then you've helped me on some other episodes of The Next Level. And anyone who may not know who Valerie is, you are the owner, planner, and designer with Sapphire Events, working worldwide out of New Orleans. And I was so fortunate to interview you in New Orleans. That was such a blast.
Yes, that was a really interesting experience being able to do that. And I miss the old days where you could do such a thing.
Yeah, I know. Oh, my God. I mean, obviously this whole virtual world is certainly easy and convenient and efficient and cheaper, but I miss, being able to do this in person.
Absolutely. Yes, same.
Yeah. Well, the guest who we're speaking about today is Matthew Myhrum with Matthew Myhrum Event Visualization, at which they provide concept renderings, design drawings, and production design services for event professionals. So, Valerie, this is interesting. I've known Matthew for a while. I've seen him at several engages, and he actually, I think we spoke about it on the interview. He did some work for me long ago when the technology wasn't near where it is today. But, when I had asked him in the beginning how he would define what he does, he basically said, as you remember, he communicates design. And he went further to say that that's finding a medium that is going to help planners and designers tell the story and the experience and the feel of the event as effectively as possible. I thought that was pretty succinct.
Yes, I agree. And I think he also even went as far as saying design is a form of optimism. And that really struck a chord with me too, because I find that particular vocabulary to be very much aligned with what I pursue in my world as a planner and designer when trying to communicate to clients and then in turn to guests that are attending the event through the construct of design. And that really hits on it impeccably, as Matt would have said, that design being a form of optimism. It's not just visually, but it contemplates political systems and the creative thought that goes into who is being affected by the design itself and how, whether that's a room or a product or an emotion. It's a lot of different things that hit on all the senses.
Yeah, and he added to that too that he feels design is about solving a particular problem that arises from an idea. That was also interesting. So, and I'm sure, obviously it's also so helpful to sell the concept to your clients, and for you as a planner designer to, explore different possibilities and also risks, right? He talked about that too.
Sure. And, for me, design is about consideration for the end user and whatever that is, and utilizing visual renderings and, the kind of things that Matt does is really incredible because it's so much more than just a sketch or a two-dimensional appreciation of what can happen in the future. He goes so far with the three-dimensional and even the VR, which we've worked with in the past. At the end of the day, for me, design is not simply decor. It's consideration for the people that will be in receipt of the thing, and it involves constant innovation. And using Matt as a partner in that has really helped in communicating that to clients who don't know what to appreciate about a design or what an event might be unless they're really in the room, right? We're not dealing with people that are experts in the industry. For the most part, we're dealing with people on the client-facing side who are novice and may not be, super imaginative when it comes to things like this. And that kind of work really helps seal the deal.
What percentage of the time are you actually hiring someone like Matt?
A good percentage of the time. When I have a larger project that has a lot of moving parts, I know right away Matt is he's a member of the team that I have to have. So the way that I work, I tend to set a design presentation about 6 months out from the date to meet with the clients and show them the full scope of everything comprehensively. And Matt's renderings and his visual services really help to round out that experience when we're 6 months in advance of a date, so that the clients can come away having a comprehensive understanding of what all of the individual pieces will look like and feel like when they all come together. And so it's quite often that I need to turn to Matt to get that message across.
Valerie, have you ever been in a position in which to get the job, you will hire Matt ahead of time? I mean, take a risk with your own funds. You may not yet have a contract, or are you always waiting until you have some kind of a commitment from the client?
So the way I work in my world is I don't start a project. I don't do anything on spec until I've been hired fully. However, I do develop a design once I am hired and under contract. And in the development of that design, I still have to sell that piece of it, right? I still have to tell my clients, this is something that I truly believe in, and get them to sign on the dotted line for that approval. And that's really where Matt plays an integral role for me in that process, is not so much where I stand today, winning the client over to even start the work, but it is winning the client over on the concept that I've pulled together. And it's worked every single time.
I want to be sure you know the wonderful news of our latest show, Stop and Smell the Roses, with acclaimed lifestyle and event design expert Preston Bailey. Not only will he share the secrets, tools, and technologies behind his extraordinary ability to create a theatrical environment out of any space, you will also discover more about the man behind the magic. Preston will reveal how his focus on personal growth has been the root of his professional success, and you'll have the opportunity for him to answer your questions along the way. Plus, Preston will be inviting onto the show many of the star celebrities he has worked with in the past, so you don't want to miss a single episode. We also have another great show on the Wedding Biz Network, The Business of Being Creative, with host Sean Lowe. Since debuting last May, his show has really taken off, and he's continuing to bring you the creative business advice he's shared with accomplished industry notables. Be sure to take advantage of Sean's talkback opportunity by recording questions and comments from right there in each episode's show notes. So, if you are a creative who is turning your craft into a business or want to take it to another level, head to theweddingbiznetwork.com and take a listen to Stop and Smell the Roses with Preston Bailey and The Business of Being Creative with Sean Lowe. That's theweddingbiznetwork.com. Now, I know that you had worked on a 360-degree design with him, using a VR, a virtual reality headset for the client. Can you tell that story?
Yes. So I had, in 2017, I had a couple that got married. So our design presentation was in 2016, and the couple really valued an intricate design in a very, very old building. And so there are multiple layers to this, where we had to illustrate the design that we were going to pull together for our clients in such a way that was very, very literal for the term of showing them what this is all going to look like. But we can't just go to the historic venue and say, let's pop up all of these things as a prototype. And in turn, also have to go to the venue and say, once the client has approved the design, this is what we would like to do, and we promise we want to be invited again, so we're not going to harm your ancient and very historically significant building. So having this visual piece, we knew was going to be advantageous for both of those things. So I turned to Matt and I said, we have a ceremony in this location, and this is a design that I want to articulate for what their arch is going to be and what the aisle will look like. Because it was different than anything that was ever done before. And there are no pictures I can put in front of the client and say, oh, your ceremony will look like X. I have to create that from scratch. And then on the reception, which was at another venue, I wanted to give the clients the experience of moving through the room and all of the spaces in this particular building, because I knew once the actual day came, there would be so many guests in the space by the time the clients got to see it that it wouldn't have the same effect. All of these design pieces that we're working on together and putting in this design presentation, the bride, who it was really important to see all of this, she wouldn't be able to fully appreciate it without anybody else in the room, just the way the logistics were going to work out. So by giving her this VR experience, I allowed her to walk through all the places virtually in the design that we ended up having on the day of without another person in the way, so she could see what the guests could see. And I didn't tell her I was doing this.
Oh, really?
No, she had no idea. And it was a risk for me, because for me to turn to Matt, this was something, I don't know that Matt had done a virtual reality presentation before, because he learned a lot. Back and forth, we worked together on this to develop it more than just a three-dimensional rendering that he typically did at the time. So we worked together to learn through the process of the things that we wanted to get across in this. And so when the bride sat down with her family and the groom was there, and the groom is, for what it's worth, he's a pilot in the Navy. So he usually is training in simulators and things like that, which are all VR headset related. So I knew he was going to be really into this. So we sat down for the presentation. I contacted a local VR company and put him in touch with Matt to make sure that the equipment and the software would talk to each other. You know, I'm not a technical person, so I don't really know what they did, but I needed to get them connected to make sure that this would actually work the day that we sat down for the presentation. And when we did that, it came time to show the work and have the bride walk through the space. She put the headset on and she was eating it up. I mean, she came away from that moment having a full appreciation for exactly what we had just shown her in a two-dimensional form. And we had a monitor set up so that whatever she was seeing in the virtual headset was showing on the screen, so her parents and the groom could also see it while they weren't wearing the headset too. So it was a full immersive experience. And, I hate to say this, but I had them hook, line, and sinker after that. There really wasn't much discussion of what they're going to get for their money, or what this design actually means, or when it comes together, what it's going to actually look like. They knew because they'd seen it.
Yeah. Oh, she had to be blown away. I mean, putting those on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you're entering a whole nother world, and it was her world, her future world. I know too that when Matt and I were talking about all this and the technology, that you can now show things like how lighting works. Like he was saying, how it reflects, given things like dust in the air and the use of hazers and reflection off glass. And, and obviously, I mean, lighting is so, integral to mood, that is an amazing benefit of it too. Absolutely.
Because the things that you can design in a vacuum without context for things like light and mood and feel and dim, the dimming that goes on in a room to set the ambiance, it can't be appreciated fully without actually seeing it in person, right? And the kinds of things that he is capable of now, I mean, the sitting at home in a pandemic might be one of the best things to have accelerated Matt's talents,
Right.
As a silver lining for us all.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Because he has learned so much about the way he can manipulate the technology and software through the gaming platforms, the gaming engines that can accelerate what would have taken him maybe days to do in figuring out lighting and things like that, which he's so good at nailing down those details and contemplating all of that when putting that into a design. He's found and has worked with and practiced with other components that can accelerate those pieces to make it even more accurate, even more efficient, and overall elevating the reality of the design and that creating that sense of realism, which is so important.
Yeah, and just to take this a little further for people listening, I mean, you can show waiters and waitresses and bartenders, and like as you approach the bar, they'll start serving a drink to you, and bands, and then you can have guests in there in a sense, so that you could help think more about various other issues related to this, and creating this interactive presentation where essentially you're interacting with it, like hearing music from the band and hearing, what did he say? I think when outside you could hear crickets, and as you're approaching a pool, you can hear the water lapping, and you can hear traffic far off. I mean, this is crazy what's coming. It's amazing.
And he's nailing it. I mean, he has a really good gift. I mean, it's this, you're speaking to the Matt Myhrum fan club right here, having me on this show.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It's things that you can't teach, or you can't instruct a person to pay attention to those kinds of nuanced details that elevate the level of reality. And he gets it. And not only does he get it, he knows what the recipient of the visual of that presentation is going to experience to make it real, that they may not even pick up on the nuances of those particular details. And it's not their job to. That's why having him as part of any design team is so crucial, because he can get there and make that experience, on the realistic side, the subtleties of the environmental, noises and things like that, where you're really hitting on all five senses here. I'm sure if he could find a way to import a sense of smell and a sense of taste in his visual presentations, like that just takes it to the next level.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's all coming.
Right, I'm sure too, and he'll be right on top of it. So
yeah, he will. Yeah, he's great with that. Well, gosh, Valerie, thank you so much for helping today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great. Always a pleasure. And I can't wait to listen to more of your episodes. This has been great.
Oh, thanks. Well, and I want people to know how to find information about you, and that would be going to sapphireevents.com. Again, sapphireevents.com. And I understand your Facebook handle is Sapphire Events Weddings.
Yes.
And on Instagram, it's Sapphire Events. Is that right?
That is right.
Good. And everyone you can find this information in the show notes at theweddingbiz.com. And then again, listen to my interview of Valerie in episode number 19. And as far as Matthew, his website is matthewmyhrum.com. That's Matthew with 2 T's and then MYHRUM. And his social media handles on Facebook, it's matthew.myhrum. And on Instagram, it's mmyhrum. And again, if you missed that, go to the show notes at theweddingbiz.com. And next week, I want to mention that I'm going to have a conversation on Monday with Cece Johnson. And then on Wednesday, a conversation with Ron Ben Israel. So it's going to be some real fun episodes next week. And we'll catch you all next week on The Wedding Biz.